Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Max.
Three of us here today.
Yeah.
You know what that means? It must be something that involves someone with a psychotic behavioural pattern that can explain psycho killers.
No.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate that. That's what you're trying to say.
There's a psycho killer that looks like a bit like Max, but I can't think who it was.
Oh, really?
Let us know in the comments.
Is it Bundy, by any chance?
Could be.
It might be Bundy, yeah.
Yeah, he's only a Ted Bundy. He's got to be, hasn't he? Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's there.
Bundy there. Number 3. But yeah, every psycho killer explained in 13 minutes. I'm not sure they can explain every one of them in 13 minutes, but I imagine there's a handful here that's... who do you think's the most psycho killer?
The most psycho?
Yeah.
I think you see there Manson's quite bad because he's like a cult.
There's one that's not on there I can see. He's Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what do you think of?
I mean, some of them that
he fucking ate people.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, it's pretty bad.
But is it like the planning or like the actual act?
I think these do both, don't they? The psycho killers do both.
I think the more psycho ones are the ones that plan it, kill them, cut them up, and
eat them,
dismember them, even eat them, things like that, and you know, even like Fred West and stuff like that. I mean, they were pretty bad as well, weren't they? You know, all the people that they
like Manson there, he got like a cult together.
Yeah,
and then just got people to kill for him as well as him killing himself.
Yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah. That's well planned out. That.
Yeah.
That's a
proper psycho.
Proper psycho. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. But out of for me, when you look at all the psychos from around the world, different one. I mean, I'm sure we're going to learn about some of these now.
Yeah.
But for me, the one that stands out massively is Jeffrey Dahmer for being the ultimate fruitcake.
I mean, some of them like our own Doctor, what's his name? Shipman. I mean, people like that are frightening because he was like, you look at him, you think, absolutely well-respected doctor.
Yeah, he was the
had the beard, had the glasses and the suit and everything. Just looked like,
and it was round here.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
there's people I know who that was their doctor.
Yeah,
really.
I bet.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
you know, people like that. That's sometimes it's even more disturbing because you think you're just like a normal member of society.
Well, we've had another one, haven't we, recently? A young female nurse, who's done something similar to what Shipman did. They can't. Lucy Letby.
That's right.
She's off a tree. If there's a lot of stories going around that she's not guilty.
Yeah, well,
but I've seen some of the stuff, and I'm like,
the evidence I've heard is it's absolutely nailed. She's been found guilty in a court of law, so as far as I'm concerned, guilty.
Yeah.
But again, she looked like, you know, normal everyday girl, didn't she?
Yeah,
like the girl next door.
The mad thing about that was
looked really nice.
But it was the natal clinic when she worked at. When she was at the
neonatal on it. That's
babies.
Right. Yeah, absolutely terrible.
That's what makes it the most harrowing part.
Yeah,
targeting the defenceless.
I know. Black kids involved. It's just sort of it's off the scale. Really is.
But there's some psychos around the world. I mean, even when you talk about psycho killers as well, you can even put like you people like your Osama bin Laden's in there as well.
Yeah.
Well,
he's masterminded some of the some
people like that under the sort of like under the radar a little bit, don't you? Because the world leaders, didn't we? That were like Idi Amin and people like that. You know, absolutely no different. Really, it's just they get away with it because they're in a position of power.
They didn't do it themselves.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll get into this anyway. Every psycho killer explaining 13 minutes.
Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer was a murderer who seemed to not only kill for the sake of it, but rather the media attention that would come with it. To him, at the end of the day, it was all just a game of catch me if you can. He seemed to love the idea of this game between him and the police and enjoyed the fear he caused. He would send very detailed letters to the police and the media telling them information about the murderers that only the killer would know. He also added a sense of mockery to the police as he sent letters with secret codes saying they could show who he was if solved. The Zodiac's crimes began with the shooting of 2 teenagers in a lover's lane in Benicia in December 1968. Over the next year, he claimed several more victims, taunting authorities with messages. He would choose young couples in quiet places as victims and carefully planned these actions to make sure he got as much attention as possible to attract the police. Despite an intense investigation and hundreds of potential suspects, the Zodiac Killer only had DNA evidence pointing to different suspects, but he was never identified. His letters claimed he had killed as many as 37 people, though authorities could only link him to 5 confirmed murders. The Killer Clown.
Wow.
That Zodiac Killer.
And they never caught him.
I've got a feeling. You have to let us know in the comments. Didn't they find someone last year?
Oh, don't know.
Yeah, there was something about that.
But I remember something in my mind saying something happened last year where they caught someone who was allegedly the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
Ah.
That could be just
comments. I'm not sure.
Could be like a loon. Like,
I don't know what it is like. Again, we had another one not long ago. He wasn't a he was a killer, but he was a cop.
Yeah,
and he sort of like he's been put away for he's been given a life sentence without any chance of parole or anything. I'm trying to think. Cousins, his name. Somewhat Cousins, remember him?
Yeah, I remember the story.
He murdered that girl, but he was flying under the radar because he was a cop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
a position of responsibility, like you said, but no one was looking where he was.
Yeah. Well, would they? Yeah.
Some of these serial killers, they want the attention, but you don't really get serial killers anymore, do you?
No,
you don't seem to quite as much.
It's hard to, isn't it?
They seem to sort of like get it. Technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Say it's pretty traceable now to sort of like pin people down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, we had someone like in my form in school. He's now in for 25 plus.
Really?
Going to one. Yeah. Do you remember when Tyson Fury's cousin got killed?
Oh,
he was in. Yeah, really? Rico Fury. Yeah.
Just over in
Goose Green.
Goose Green.
Yeah. I think it's very. He look the type. Yeah. He's mental. Yeah. But people like that. But the technology nowadays, it'd be so much harder to get away with it compared to like
time and again anyway. Wouldn't it? Or even once.
Like the Moors murders. I think they found them because of a piece of evidence that only just come in technology-wise. Do you remember that? And it's Ian Brady.
Yeah, Ian Brady. Yeah, of course I do. It's one of the girls who got killed was one of my mate's aunts.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Leslie Ann Downey.
A lot of links.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
It's this area. It's full of psychos. Yeah. The best one was when I saw my mate in a pub and I went, "Hey, John, I've not seen you for years." He went, "I just got out 25 years." And I went, right. In my head, I'm thinking 25 years is murder.
Yeah,
that's what's going through my mind.
It's bad.
That's not for some stealing some shoplifting some candy from the
Or
store.
Stop forgetting to tax your car or anything, is it?
No, I'm just like right.
Nice seeing you, mate. Hope you well.
Time. Just gotta get this taxi.
Oh, I've got no signal here. Just go outside with my phone.
No, I ain't going outside. He's not leaving the site.
John Wayne Gacy would be Pogo the Clown during local community events and charities, but in private, he would go on to be the mass murderer who would go on to kill 33 young men in his home in Norwood Park Township, Illinois. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy lured at least 33 young men and boys to his home after advertising jobs in public areas. Once they were inside, he would them before eventually strangling or suffocating them to death. His killing spree came to an end in 1978 when the police discovered a significant number of human remains buried in the crawl space of his home and the surrounding area. The iceberg went deeper as the investigation revealed that he had been carefully recording his crimes in journals and keeping mementos from his victims. All this had been a game to him, and it said that it brought him so much happiness. In 1980, Gacy was found guilty of 33 counts of murder and was sentenced to death. But even with the fact that his life was coming to an end, his final words were, "Kiss my A." Ted Bundy. On the surface, like many serial killers, Ted Bundy was said to be a charming and charismatic guy, and Bundy would almost always use his charisma to gain the next victim's trust. Bundy was good at talking and seemed nice, which made people trust him. This was a trick to make it easier for him to find a victim. For almost 4 years, he would go on to commit over 30 murders, with no one suspecting anything because of how nice he was. And with this, between 1974 and 1978, Bundy went on a multi-state killing spree, primarily targeting young women and girls. He would lure his victims by posing as an authority figure or pretending to need help, using things like pretending to be hurt and using crutches or a sling to manipulate victims into helping him. This not only made him seem less threatening, but also provided an opportunity to get them close to his vehicle, only to brutally and murder them.
Can you imagine how you feel? You try to help someone and all of a sudden you're getting butchered.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be absolutely terrifying.
I've heard that.
Really?
I know that his whole thing was like he's a charming guy. Apparently that's that kind of bollocks because it's portrayed like, oh, any girl he talked to, it was just, they fell for him. Apparently he got rejected loads.
That's probably why some of them are dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? True. Yeah. But it's just try to help someone. You know what I mean? Be nice. Yeah. I'll help that. It goes to show sometimes just walk past, leave it.
That's it. Yeah. Could be psycho.
That's a prime example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bundy's killing methods were particularly gruesome, as he often revisited the crime scenes to engage in acts of necrophilia. What's worse is that he would decapitate at least 12 of his victims and keep their severed heads to remember them. Even though he would do these murders almost regularly, Bundy was able to evade capture for years due to his ability to blend in with society. When he was a mass murderer, he outwardly seemed like a regular guy. He dated women, had a job, and wasn't socially awkward. During his eventual trial in Florida, Bundy became his own lawyer and attempted to portray himself as a victim of pornography and dysfunctional family life. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. Milwaukee Cannibal. From necrophilia, cannibalism, and permanent preservation of body parts from his victims, Jeffrey Dahmer got away with it all had it not been for one victim who managed to get away. Jeffrey Dahmer would usually lure men, primarily young African-American men and boys, back to his apartment, where he would put drugs in their drinks, and afterward, he would do what he pleased with them. After killing his victims, he would dismember their bodies and keep various body parts, such as skulls, hands.
My thing is about Dahmer. He's I never knew it was Milwaukee. I've seen the documentary. I've read loads about him, and I've just never appeared to be Milwaukee.
Yeah. Okay.
I always thought it was Chicago.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
I just thought it was Chicago, and it's Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Unless he's from Milwaukee.
There
It wasn't
you go.
Chicago, I don't know. But I never associated Milwaukee with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Well, there you go then. Learn something new every day.
You do, you're right. You're right.
Going up a level, isn't it?
Kind of explains Code Blue Cam a little bit better now as well.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Makes all them look normal now.
Yeah.
And genitalia with him, even eating some of the body parts. He tried different experiments on some victims, hoping it would put them in a sort of zombie-like state by using a drill and harmful chemicals, thinking this would make them stay forever. In total, Dahmer was convicted of killing 15 men and boys, although he confessed to additional murders. Perhaps the worst part is that the number might have been lower, as one of his victims, who was an underage boy from Laos, managed to escape his house, even though Dahmer had drilled a hole in his head. Still, the police returned to Dahmer's house as Jeffrey would lie that he was his drunk boyfriend. Dahmer was eventually caught in 1991 and sentenced to life in prison, but would later die after an inmate beat him to death. Jack the Ripper.
Can't say I didn't deserve it.
5 victims and 5 throats cut with almost surgeon-like precision. Jack the Ripper's death toll wasn't as high per se as other serial killers, but he did do one thing the others couldn't. He got away. The murders took place in the poor Whitechapel district of London in 1888, where the victims were all prostitutes who he most likely paid for their services, but unknown to them, they had been paid to die. Unlike these days, where killings like these would be everywhere on either social media or the news, in the 19th century, everyone had to rely on the newspaper or rumors going around, which made everything all the much worse. The newspapers would talk about how the Ripper would remove the internal organs of his victims, carefully keeping everything intact. At the time, education on things like human anatomy was only reserved for the richest in society, meaning the public thought they had not only a murderer, but one who was bright and possibly quite rich. And in 1888, after the first body was discovered, more kept coming. You can imagine the terror everyone was in at the time. Rumors going about that he could be a vampire who drank the victim's blood, or that he was a sort of vengeful spirit killing the immoral people in society. With most of the victims being poor prostitutes who were forced into that life to make ends meet, most of the authorities at the time thought they had it coming and barely protected them. But even despite the intensive investigation at the time and the numerous suspects proposed throughout the years, Jack the Ripper's identity remains one of the biggest mysteries to this day. Charles Manson.
Yeah.
I went to when the kids were in school. I went to the school one day for like a parent-teacher sort of like a thing, and I got talking to somebody, and there was a story going on. Someone was explaining a story, and they said, "What is it? Start again," sort of thing. Because I joined the conversation, and they said, "I think it was the headmaster of the school."
Yeah.
Not obviously back in the day. School's like a few hundred years old, and the headmaster back in the day was a suspect for Jack the Ripper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like quite an interesting sort of thing. So I was like looking it up and all that kind of stuff, and he was,
Oh,
the police spoke to him about it.
Wow.
It was miles away from London. It was this in Birmingham.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, wow. I think wasn't there a big investigation in terms of like it came back up being like, we think we know who it was.
There's a lot of rumours, isn't there? I think they've narrowed it down to like 3 or 4 people, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure they'll ever prove it now. I think it's a bit too late for that, isn't it? Such a long time
over
ago.
140
years.
Exactly,
yeah.
Got it. I know it is.
We found him.
Go get him.
There'll be no evidence or anything like that, will there? Or DNA or nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just going to be speculation forever, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Manson was essentially a cult leader who formed a commune known as the Manson family in the late 1960s, which attracted a devoted group of followers, mostly young women, with his ideologies and charismatic personality. He preached a darker philosophy that involved starting a race war he called Helter Skelter, with the plan being to commit murders against celebrities and blame it on particular black gangs. In August 1969, under Manson's orders, members of his cult murdered pregnant actress Sharon Tate, along with 4 others, at her home in Los Angeles. The following night, they killed couple Leno and Rosemary LaBianca in their home, leaving messages written in blood at both crime scenes that read, "Death to pigs." Pigs referring to the police officers to make it seem that this was committed by gangs instead. You see, Manson didn't even physically commit the murders himself, but instead manipulated his followers into carrying out the acts for him. Manson was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and received the death penalty, which was later changed to life in prison. The Butcher of Plainsfield. Ed Gein lived an isolated life with his harsh mother on their family farm in the small town of Plainsfield, Wisconsin. After his mother died in 1945, Gein's already fragile mental state deteriorated further, leading him down a dark path of necrophilia, grave robbery, and finally, murder. In 1957, when local authorities investigating a local woman's disappearance had to search his property, the quiet farmer's house turned out to be among the worst things in murder history. Gein had made household items and clothing from human skin and body parts, including skulls used as bowls and human skin furniture. Further investigation revealed that Gein had removed numerous corpses from local graveyards, collecting body parts and preserving them in a bizarre obsession with his dead mother. His obsession eventually led to the murder of 2 women whose bodies were found mutilated and dismembered on his property. Gein was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and ruled legally insane. However, his crimes were still so disturbing that, to the point where the horror films Psycho and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre were made from this insane story.
Oh, wow.
The Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Through June 1984, a series of murders would be committed in the form of home invasions and murders across California. The murder methods were particularly evil, as he would break into homes late at night, brutalize his victims with beatings and assaults, and often commit satanic rituals before murdering them. The police were possibly dealing with a lunatic who was looking for his victims every night. He was known to leave satanic symbols at the crime scenes, leading to his Night Stalker name. His crimes weren't just murders, but extreme violence, sadism, and a seeming lack of remorse or empathy for his victims. In some of the victims' bodies, it was seen that they had been involved in prolonged acts of torture against their victims. He would inflict a lot of physical pain and psychological torment. It was pretty clear that the killer simply enjoyed torture. The hunt for the Night Stalker became one of the largest manhunts in California history, with over 200 detectives working the case. In August 1985, the killer was recognized and beaten by a group of residents in East Los Angeles before being arrested, and with that, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had been caught. During his trial, Ramirez embraced his Night Stalker persona, often flashing a pentagram to the cameras and taunting the families of his victims. What is even more insane is that during Richard Ramirez's trial in 1989, one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, unexpectedly passed away. Singletary was found dead in her apartment. Her death was attributed to a lethal combination of alcohol and prescription drugs, specifically Valium and the painkiller codeine. Singletary's death occurred during the penalty phase of Ramirez's trial, and because of this, a lot of the people at the time thought Ramirez had caused the death. He was eventually convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 and 14 burglaries. The Rostov Ripper. Partially
that one, the Night Stalker. He's like a Netflix series on that, or a movie on it, wasn't they?
Ah, right.
I think they're asking for quite a few of these.
Yeah, the Dharma one for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we've watched. Didn't we watch one?
Obviously, Manson's there's done a film of that, haven't they, as well?
Yeah,
there's a film of that.
Zodiac
John
as
Wayne
well.
Gacy as well, didn't we? We did a video. We watched a video on that, didn't we?
That's right.
John Wayne Gacy.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's that Night Stalker one was really like
some psychos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just off the scale, isn't it? Really.
I've never heard of this guy, the Rostov Ripper. It's new to me. This one.
No, I guess it's Russian.
Yeah. How do you know?
That is just a stab at the dark. Well,
because he looks
probably
like
what he's been.
Due to the incompetence of the investigators and the lack of modern forensic techniques at the time, the Rostov Ripper would go on to murder and at least 53 women and children in the Russian towns of Rostov, Shakhty, and Novocherkassk between 1973 and 1990. His victims ranged from 7 to 36, and he would often engage in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism after the killings. Andrei Chikatilo preyed upon vulnerable individuals by exploiting their trust or desperation. He would often approach his victims in public places such as bus or train stations, markets, or parks, offering them money, food, or assistance. He presented himself as a friendly and helpful figure, gaining the confidence of his victims before leading them to isolated locations where he could carry out his heinous acts without interruption. Chikatilo would also promise financial assistance or aid to women who were struggling financially or in need of assistance. In fact, the Soviet Union during the 1980s was bad to live. The victims were desperate. He would do this before subjecting them to acts of violence, including and even biting off their tongues and other body parts. Despite an investigation by Soviet authorities, Chikatilo remained at large for over a decade. His killing spree finally came to an end in 1990 when he was arrested after a routine document check revealed his connection to the murders. During his trial, Chikatilo confessed to the murders and described in chilling detail the pleasure he derived from the acts of violence and mutilation. He was eventually found guilty of 52 murders and sentenced to death by firing squad in 1994.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Right.
Wow, some psychos there, isn't there?
Yeah. When ABBA sang about
frightening.
Right? That ABBA song. Chikatilo, you and I know. Some lunatics out there, isn't they?
Yeah.
It's just the lengths that some people go. Like I think, like you said, we've had some round here, but they've never been in like that detail. I think the worst bit was like the canal pusher for a while.
That was more recent.
He's still going.
Well, you think about the Moors murderers.
It's shocking that, you know, like I say, when children involved, it's just...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was kids, and it was
Frightening.
torture. It was torture involved. It was like, it was just bad.
Yeah,
all around
it's
torture,
absolutely
murder.
disgusting.
Yeah, it's that's the worst one around here. But Shipman's probably up there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack the Ripper.
Well, yeah,
Sorry, the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yorkshire Ripper, yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot about him, yeah.
Yeah, well,
he was found, wasn't he?
That Yorkshire Ripper. Do you want a quick story about me and the Yorkshire Ripper? We were like, that, me and him.
Oh, no, you should have led with that.
My sister died when I was younger. I wasn't born at the time before she passed away. But she passed away as a kid. Mm-hmm. We were at the graveside, and my mum gave me a bucket and said, "Go and fill that up with water." And when I walked around, there was a fucking guy stood there, just fucking staring at me in a weird way. I just went, "I don't think we need water." Went back and I said to my mum, "It's a fucking weird guy over there. I'm not going over there." I was only little, not small. I said, "There's a weird guy over there. I'm not going over there." Someone said it'd be fine, and I went, "No." You hadn't seen him, and there was a body found the next day, the Yorkshire Ripper body.
Really?
Found in Southern Cemetery. Yeah, just outside.
Wow.
Which, ironically, is right where I live now.
That's
across the street from where I live.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Back to the scene of the crime.
I know. And then when I read
That's
about
what some of them do.
When I read about it the next day, well, I didn't read about it the next day. My mum told me the next day. I was like, she's like, "Don't be scared, though." I'm like, "Don't be scared." I was like 4.
Yeah.
Whatever I was, shit myself. I thought it was coming for me.
Oh my God.
They said you get a bucket of water, the person in it, so it wasn't a reflection, was it, in the water?
Steel can.
I think we better make ourselves smart. Get out of here, Max.
Do you want a drink?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
No, weird that though, right? That was very close.
Yeah.
That was real close, yeah. But
yeah, some bad people there, and all those ones are guys as well. I think we've done some on women before, but I think the men seem to be just worse.
Yeah, the worst ones are the men, without a doubt. You know, it's.
I mean, they're all bad, but
they are. But the worst ones, women seem to have a reason behind it sometimes.
Yeah,
like a more like a I don't know. But not. Sometimes they know they're put under a certain situation where they have to retaliate or react.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like for the women, but when men just sort of like seem to be compulsive with it. You know, people like this, and he's
clearly not right. You can't be right in the head, can you? There's got to be something wrong up there to do.
Yeah.
Commit acts like this.
For me, Dharma's number 1.
Because Rostov was 53 people.
I know.
And kids.
I know. Well, how many was Shipman?
Well, it's over 100 in the end,
wasn't it? In the hundreds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think so. It was more than 200, wasn't it?
Quite possibly. I know it's a lot.
But what was his thing? Is it just like lethal injection? Was he genuine just
oversubscription?
It's like morphine and stuff like that. It's like mainly older people, wasn't it? Who were under medication, but then he'd obviously certified a death as well. You see, because he was a respected local doctor.
Yeah.
So he'd actually certify it, wouldn't he? So no one questioned it, especially because most of the people were old. It sort of maybe expected that they were going to pass away anyway, but in a certain time frame. But he was sort of like hurrying it along, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But it's it was a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know what this video was, but these like I say, you don't really get much now.
No,
not on this level anyway. Thank God.
Thankfully, good job.
But anyway, enjoyed that. So learning about some of the ones.
Very interesting, disturbing, but very interesting.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.